Hello again, fight fans. I'm Michael Montero, and I need to go on a little rant, okay? Because so far, 2016 is a major disappointment. Now look, we had a good year in 2015. Some big fights got made, and even if they didn't quite live up to expectations, fights that fans wanted to see actually got made last year. And some of these new guys coming up, the new guard, they continue to stake their claim and push out the old guard. And 2016 looked really promising, but so far, nothing's happening. The schedule is dead. And as much as we like to blame the promoters, the networks, the managers, it's really on the fighters. A lot of these guys are acting like divas. They're acting like athletes first, fighters second. They're not getting in the ring and fighting. It has a lot of boxing fans around the world screaming, what the hell is going on with boxing in 2016? So I talked about some of the big fights being made last year. I wanted to start off by talking about some of the big fights we were promised in 2016 that I don't think are going to happen. Let's start with Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev. I'm starting to think this thing ain't happening until next year, and I'll tell you why. Last year in 2015, Andre Ward signed a very lucrative deal with HBO. It was a 3-fight deal, and part of that deal was that his third fight of that contract, he was supposed to face Sergey Kovalev to not only determine the real champion at light heavyweight, but probably the pound-for-pound #1 guy in all of boxing. Here's the thing. Ward's first fight in that contract was supposed to be last year on the Canelo undercard. But remember, he pulled out about a week or two before that fight because he had a sore knee. So technically, he hasn't even had his first fight yet. Now he's scheduled to face Sullivan Barrera next month. But here's the thing, that fight isn't even signed yet. Rock Nation and Main Events are still going back and forth trying to hammer out details. Kathy Diva expressed her frustration about this in an interview earlier this week. So that fight should come off, but if and when it does, that'll be Andre Ward's first fight of his 3-fight deal with HBO. That means he still has another fight, an interim fight if you will, before the scheduled fight with Kovalev is supposed to happen. Now, Main Events, HBO, Sergey Kovalev, John David Jackson, all those guys say that they want to fight Andre Ward in November. They already just fought Jean Pascal. They're scheduled to fight in June, probably in Russia, against a stay busy type of opponent. They want Ward in November. Here's the problem. That would be asking Andre Ward to fight 3 times in 2016. Andre Ward hasn't fought more than twice in any year since 2009, okay? Almost a decade since he's fought more than twice a year. So no way Andre Ward's gonna fight more than twice this year. He's probably gonna fight Barrera next month, sit idle in the summer, and fight somebody not named Sergey Kovalev in the fall, leaving Kovalev high and dry yet again. So I really don't think we're going to get Kovalev Ward in 2016. Adonis Stevenson. People have wanted to see him and Sergey Kovalev do battle for a while now. Adonis Stevenson jumped up in the ring and pulled some WWF shit after Sergey Kovalev disposed of Jean Pascal again recently. Now look, if you believe that was legit and Adonis Stevenson really wants that fight, you probably believe that Ben Affleck deserved his Oscar. Stevenson don't want none of that. Al Heyman don't want none of that. So again, the guys we want to see Sergey Kovalev fight, not happening this year. Now the biggest fight that could be made in boxing right now is between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. These two are actually supposed to fight at the end of this year, according to the WBC. Golovkin is Canelo's mandatory, and the WBC said, look, you guys get 1 interim fight each, and then you have to fight each other. Golovkin just signed on to fight his IBF mandatory Dominic Wade on April 23rd at the Forum in Los Angeles. It was also announced recently that Canelo Alvarez is going to defend against none other than Amir Khan in May at a 155-pound catchweight. Now, the fact that the WBC keeps allowing this catchweight business Basically, it's 1 pound over junior middleweight. 1 pound over. The fact that they're letting Canelo defend against a guy who's never fought north of welterweight, I don't know. I just have a feeling the WBC is going to allow Canelo Alvarez to prolong this fight with Golovkin a little bit longer. They've done it before. They favor Mexican fighters all the time. So expect Canelo, after he beats Amir Khan, to bait his time. Maybe an injury happens or something like that. I don't think we're going to get to see Canelo Golovkin until May of 2017. Speaking of Amir Khan, shouldn't he be fighting Kell Brook? Kell Brook has a fight scheduled coming up against no one I've ever heard of, and I do this stuff full time. Golovkin, again, he's high and dry. Nobody wants to fight him. It's the same situation he had last year. It's so bad at K2 Promotions with Gennady Golovkin that they're actually exploring fighting Bernard Hopkins, who's 51 years old. Another big fight that we're supposed to get is the rematch between Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko. Now look, their first fight was pretty damn horrible, but it was exciting because it blew up the heavyweight division. And now a lot of people want to see, can Tyson Fury follow that up? Can he show it wasn't a fluke? Or can Klitschko, the old man, turn back the clock and win his crown back? That's a big, big fight over in Europe, in Germany. And it's contractually mandated. There's no injuries getting in the way. The mandatory situation, that got cleaned up. There was an IBF mandatory, and Tyson Fury tossed the belt in the garbage. And now Charles Martin has that. So there's no issues getting in the way here. Yet, this fight isn't scheduled yet. It's February, guys. This fight should we should have a date or something. Maybe the venue isn't settled, whatever, but we should have some sort of date. Nothing. Sticking with the heavyweights, Deontay Wilder, he's supposed to fight Alexander Povetkin. He's been the mandatory for that WBC heavyweight title for over a year now. I believe it's a year and a half. Nothing scheduled. Deontay Wilder's done plenty of talking. Nothing scheduled. The guy that many people see as the heir apparent to the Klitschko era, Anthony Joshua. He has a date in April, but it's TBA. He doesn't have an opponent scheduled. Luis Ortiz, the monster of the heavyweight division right now that nobody wants to face. This guy, he's reached out to so many opponents. Nobody wants to fight the guy. He had a date against Alexander Dimitrenko. He pulled out. So now he's fighting Tony Thompson, who's lost 3 of his last 5 fights on an HBO card. We're excited to see Luis Ortiz in the ring, but against Tony Thompson, I just don't know. This guy is like 44 years old. Ruslan Shagayev, who's been a quality heavyweight, but is well past it by now. He's defending his WBA regular title against Australian fighter Lucas Brown in March. That's an exciting fight, but here's the thing. The winner of that fight is contractually obligated to fight Frezo Kendo, who won a lawsuit with this whole big deal with the WBA. So the winner of that fight, who you figure would be an interesting matchup potentially for Luis Ortiz or somebody like that, they're going to be tied up with Frezo Kendo. So we're not going to see the winner of that fight against anybody we care about until 2017 as well. Going a little further down the weight scale, cruiserweight fighter Krzysztof Golovkin. Remember him? He was in the Fighter of the Year candidate last year. That was back in August. Hasn't fought since, nothing scheduled. Go a little further down the weight scale, Arthur Beterbiev. The last time this guy fought was last June, nothing scheduled. And that same weight class, I mentioned Adonis Stevenson before. Andres Fonfara, who was in a couple of good fights last year and really proved himself that he's worthy of a rematch with Adonis Stevenson. That's not being talked about. Neither one of those guys has a fight scheduled. How about Victor Postol, who scored the upset of the year last October against Lucas Matisse? Hasn't fought since, nothing scheduled. Another top-ranked guy, Vasyl Lomachenko, one of the best pound-for-pound talents in the world, nothing scheduled. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, the guy that pretty much everybody sees as the pound-for-pound #1 fighter right now. Many people's fighter of the year in 2015, nothing scheduled. Now perhaps he'll fight on the Triple G Wade undercard in April, but nothing's being discussed yet. There's no possible opponents. There's no names being thrown out there. Here's the thing. Juan Francisco Estrada, a guy that Chocolatito beat a few years ago in a very close competitive fight. Everybody wants to see that rematch. It would unify 3 of the titles at flyweight. He doesn't have a fight scheduled. Why aren't they talking to him? I'm not Rueng, the guy who upset, quote unquote, upset Zhou Shiming last year, gave him his first loss. He has the other title at flyweight. He doesn't have a fight scheduled. Why aren't we talking to him? Those would be great fights, and they're makeable fights, but it's not even being discussed right now. I know some of you out there are saying, Montero, calm down. We got Frampton Quigg, we got Thurman Porter, we got Pacquiao Bradley 3, which no one's really that excited about, but there's a quality undercard. And if Bradley wins that fight, then, you know, it shakes up things over at Top Rank. We've got Canelo, which I talked about before, Amir Khan, Canelo Alvarez. Those are all interesting fights in their own way and everything like that. And you know, Thurman Porter might really mean something. Frampton Quigg might really mean something. But none of them are the big fights that we expect to be lined up around that peak season in boxing, at least in the first half of the year. That's really April to May. That's when things really get flowing. There's just nothing on the schedule that's got boxing fans buzzing. Nothing. And I could deal with that if there was some nice stuff to look forward to later this year. But the promise of Canelo Golovkin, of Kovalev Ward or Kovalev Stevenson or anything like that, even Fury Klitschko 2, something to look forward to is in terms of big matchups with real big power players in the sport. There's nothing on the schedule. And every hint that we have seems to point to those big fights not happening, at least not this year, at least not when they should. There's been talk of Miguel Cotto fighting Juan Manuel Marquez as kind of a farewell fight for both of those guys, another Puerto Rico-Mexican thing. While that would probably be an entertaining fight, neither guy is anywhere near their best. It's probably gonna go to pay-per-view. Are you gonna pay 50, 60 bucks, 70 bucks for that fight? Is it worth it? Let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's a way some of these fights work out? Do you think there's a way that the PBC fixes some of their problems and starts getting some fights going? Because their schedule is bleak right now. How about Top Rank? What the hell are they doing? What is their business plan this year? Bud Crawford, Vasyl Lomachenko, these guys should be fighting often against names that we care about. What are they doing over at Top Rank? Guys, I don't want to say we're in trouble here, but so far 2016 feels like a dazed hangover from 2015.